Have you ever struggled with salary negotiations as a woman in leadership? This topic is by far one of the topics that I am asked the most about, especially from my one-on-one clients. And in this video, I'm going to share with you real stories that have happened to myself and my clients as it relates to salary negotiations in hopes that you will be able to obtain some insights that will help you on your journey. Many of you are at different phases in your careers as leaders, and you may be at the beginning, the middle, or towards the end of your career. Having a salary that reflects you is extremely important. And one of the underlying themes as it relates to salary negotiation that I want to just give you a teaser on right now is how you communicate will absolutely dictate your salary. I do want to preface this by saying that this video you absolutely want to watch to the end. I do not know at the moment any woman that would not want to like to have a higher salary, any man that would like to have a salary. So this is something that is really important. And if you stay around to the end of this video, I am sure that you will learn from the mistakes that I have made as it relates to salary negotiation in a way that will help you on your journey. So if you are ready, then let me know in the comments below you're ready. And let me know, I have a question for you. What has been your best salary negotiation? And what has been the worst salary negotiation that you have had? Put it in the comments below. Let me know. I have a little bit of tea today because I'm still under the weather, unfortunately, but I'm recuperating, hopefully. So if you're watching this portion of the video, you're more than likely watching the replay, and I am so glad that you decided to spend a few moments out of your day with me today. If you can give me just a few moments, there's typically a time period on the lives here on YouTube, because this is a live streaming right now, where the audience members will join. I like to say hello to everyone and welcome them and greet them to the live stream. Just bear with me and I'll start talking to you a bit about my stories so that you learn a bit more about me personally, because I know some of you have asked a bit more about me. And I want to also share with you why I personally am so aggressive as it relates to salary negotiation, in hopes that it will help you to advocate for yourself more as a woman in leadership. Now, many of you know that this channel is for anyone that is trying to elevate themselves as leaders. So let me say hello to those who have joined. We have Pepper's Oven. Hey, Pepper's Oven, how you doing today? Pepper's Oven says, hey, you're gorgeous. Well, thank you, Pepper's Oven. I appreciate you. Josiah, hello, hello. Welcome, friend. Stephen W. Welcome, welcome. Stephen W. says, good job, girl. Well, thank you, Stephen. I appreciate you. If you want to learn more about salary negotiations and you have been struggling with it, this is an opportunity for you to learn over 20 years of experience as a C-suite executive, a director, a manager. I've done hundreds of salary negotiations at this point. But in this video, specifically, this is a little bit of a different video, okay? This is me. I'm going to share with you personally what I have dealt with as it relates to salary negotiations so that you all can learn from my mistakes and hopefully be able to advocate for yourself better as it relates to negotiating your salary. Now, before I go into my stories and why I am very, very aggressive as it relates to salary negotiations, I do want to share with you a couple of resources that will help you, that will be in addition to what I'm talking about today. So the first resource I want to mention to you is that I have a video here on my YouTube channel that talks about salary, how to negotiate your salary like a boss. This particular video is on my pre-recorded videos on my channel. The thumbnail is green, and this has a bit more detail in terms of specifics, logistics that go into salary negotiation, some numbers you need to keep in mind, and etc. I'm not going to talk about that today. And the reason I want to share with you my stories because I believe that we learn from each other's stories, and I want to share that with you. But I have a lot of resources to help you with the technical side of things. So that's number one. Second resource is earlier this morning, I was live on YouTube and I shared with you all some additional insights as it relates to salary negotiation. Why is it important? Why do some women leaders struggle with this? Why do leaders in general struggle with this? So that's something you might want to check out as well. The third resource I have is a salary negotiation masterclass that is on my website at xliteexcellence.org. It is under products and services. This goes into a lot more detail. It is a masterclass, and it will help you be able to feel more confident in your salary negotiations. I share some strategies there that I share with my clients in a one-on-one setting when they are working with me and they have paid and invested in their success to go to that next level. So I wanted to make sure that you all know that's available. And then if you look at my lives here on YouTube, there are a lot, I would say a lot of videos where we talk about salary negotiations. So if you're trying to really elevate yourself, definitely I have a lot to offer to you. But today I'm just sharing with you me. I'm sharing with you what I have dealt with personally as it relates to salary negotiation. And the stories I'm sharing with you will absolutely help you in your salary negotiations to hopefully gain more income in your roles. And if this sounds like something that's interesting to you, then you absolutely want to subscribe to this channel, friends. This is a place where I will help you communicate at a higher level than your peers, so you stand out from everyone else as a leader. So let me go into why I'm so aggressive with salary negotiation, because I know people struggle with this, particularly women leaders struggle with this. Men leaders struggle with this too. All of us struggle with salary negotiation because there's something about us asking for money that can be somewhat uncomfortable at times. And so let me share with you exactly what happened to me specifically. I'm going to share with you as much as I can. And if you all have questions, maybe you've done a salary negotiation, it did not go well, or maybe you have one coming up and you want some insight in terms of, well, how should I negotiate my salary? What should I say? What should I do? How can I develop a strategy? This is the best place for you to be tonight. This is the best place for you to be tonight, in the morning, depending on when you watch this video, because I will give you 20 years worth of expertise in a really short amount of time. So feel free to ask me any questions and let me know where you all are joining from in the big, beautiful world today. Where are you joining from today? I'd love to hear that. So let me start with me personally. So many of you, as I mentioned, I'm very aggressive with salary negotiations. So what does that mean specifically? That means I'm going to ask for as much as I can. Basically, that's what that means. Let me explain to you why. Because I was not always this way, friends. I was not always this way, leaders. I definitely developed this over the years. And this is what I help my clients do in a one-on-one setting. If you need some support in terms of communicating at that higher level, then check out the description below. There is a link to a strategy session that is in the description where we have a call and we'll discuss briefly about where you are and where you want to be as a woman in leadership. So what happened to me? So what happened to me is that I'm going to go back 20 plus years ago. Okay, we're going back in time. And what happened is that I graduated from undergraduate many, many years ago, well over 20 years ago. And at that particular time, for those of you who somewhat know my story, and for those of you who are new to me, you'll learn a little bit more about me personally. So at that time, my career goal was to work as a forensic DNA analyst and to work for the FBI. FBI, for those of you who are not based out of the United States, is the Federal Bureau of Investigation. That was my ultimate dream goal. That was my dream job. So I started, as soon as I graduated from undergraduate, I started working at a biotechnology laboratory because I wanted to start developing my skill set as someone that works in a laboratory to start getting myself to that position where I would be able to work for the FBI. Now, at this particular job, I had just graduated from college and I interviewed, went in for the position, and the question I was asked on my first interview. So the first thing I want you all to learn is that you need to be prepared to talk about money all the time. Even if it's in your first interview, even if it's in your phone screen, you need to be prepared to talk about salary all the time, because I was completely caught off guard. That is a mistake that I made that I do not want you all to make. I was caught off guard. So the hiring manager at that time, he asked me, what kind of salary do you want for this position? And I said, I'm not sure. What salary are you offering? Now, if I was able to go back to my past self, I would tell my past self, what's wrong with you? You don't do that. But I'm just sharing this with you because this was the mistake that I made. I don't want you all to make this mistake. Before I go into what happened next, let me say to Dualtron, welcome Dualtron. Hope you're doing well today. And let me know where you're joining from in the big, beautiful world today. And if you have questions specifically as it relates to salary negotiation, let me know in the comments below. If you've had some good experiences or maybe some not so good experiences, let me know. Let me know so we can all talk about them together. So what happened to me specifically? This is something that actually took place. So let me see what's going on in the chat. Saw something pop up. So Dualtron says, wrong, I don't need you, you need me. Actually, Dualtron, well, it is very apparent that you are on my live. So that would mean that you are here watching me. So this channel is a bit more serious. We actually are here to help leaders go to that next level in their careers. So if you feel that way, that's fine. There's other live streams that you can go and watch. But here I'm actually providing real value for people that actually are trying to make more money in their careers and are trying to go to that next level. So if that is a bit too advanced for you, this might not be the best live for you at this point in time. Now, to go back to what I was saying, specifically what happened in this case is that the hiring manager mentioned to me, what are you looking for? And I said, well, I'm not sure. What are you offering? And he said, well, we're offering around $13 an hour. Now, as I mentioned, this is a long time ago, right? I don't make that now. But it's $13 an hour. So I said, okay, that sounds great. I'll take it. I was just I'm trying to reflect back in terms of how I felt. I was just so excited. I just graduated from undergraduate, had my bachelor's in biology, and I was just taking that one big step, right, to go and be a forensic DNA analyst. I needed to work in a biotechnology job to get myself started. I can't just graduate from college and go straight to work for the FBI as a forensic DNA analyst. So I was just so excited in my career process that I didn't even think about negotiating a salary. It was something I'd never even done ever in my life at that point. Another insight I'll share with you from this that you should learn from is, one, don't make the mistake that I made. And then number two, make sure you are surrounding yourself with very good individuals or mentors who have been at that level to help you negotiate your salary. I personally didn't have that. I didn't have that in my life whatsoever. And this is something that was definitely a real big challenge for me personally. Now, so what happened? So I started the job and I was very, very happy to be at that particular role. And after I'd worked at the job, and believe it or not, that job actually ended up being a nightmare. Can you believe that? Had some really mean things happening to me. Sorry, I need to just adjust something real quick. I had some mean things happening to me, had some really toxic coworkers, all of that crazy stuff that happens sometimes when you're working in different roles. But a couple months went by and I started to learn a bit more about people's salaries. People started to talk a little bit. So this is what I found out. This is one of the lessons, and this is the reason why I'm so aggressive with salary negotiations, especially after I found this out. So what I found out is that there was a individual who happened to be another coworker of mine who happens to be a man. Now, I'll tell you just a preface this, and this, as I mentioned, this is my perspective in terms of what actually happened to me. The hiring manager I spoke with that negotiated salary happened to be a male. And the individual I'm referring to was a male also. Now, I did have other females I worked with, but I found out that myself, as a college-educated student, I graduated, I was basically being paid less than the male who I worked with that was not college educated, did not have experience, that was giving me a hard time. So I found this out. And so once I learned that, the lessons that I learned from that, leaders, and whether you're a woman or a male watching this video, is that you have to really advocate for yourself. Now, I'll say specifically to the women leaders, you have to really advocate for yourself, because I didn't know that I was basically being paid significantly less than someone that did not have a degree at all and did not have any experience. But the only difference between us was gender at that time. And you may think, well, that sounds biased, but I'm just sharing with you, this is the reality that actually happened to me personally. And I took that lesson and I said, you know what? I will never not negotiate my salary ever again. And so from that point forward, I was very aggressive with salary negotiations. So fast forward several months later, I decided that I wanted to do more and really get into a forensics lab at that time. I was working in a biotechnology lab where we were sequencing samples from academic institutions at the time, but I said I really want to try to go into forensics. So let me see what specifically I can do to go into that. So what did I do? I applied for a couple positions. I applied for a job with the State Bureau of Investigation in North Carolina at that time because I was just trying to work my way up. And I applied for a job in New Orleans for a DNA sequencing lab. Now, I ended up having a phone call with the sequencing lab in New Orleans. I'm not going to say the name just because of the work that I did while I was there. So I can't go into detail in terms of what specifically I did, but just know that I was working on the forensic side and analyzing DNA samples of convicted felons. That's all that I can say. I can't say who, can't say where, all that stuff. But nonetheless, what the conversation I had with the owner at the time, he had a conversation with me and it came up before they hired me. This is the initial interview process about salary. So remember, I made a huge mistake. My first salary negotiation, bad mistake. So this time I was still working for that same job, but I learned my lesson, leaders. One other insight I want to share with you. You make a mistake, learn from it quickly. Don't wait. Don't think about it. You learn, you move on. You learn, you move on. A lot of times you'll hear definitely a lot of entrepreneurs, millionaires, billionaires talk about making mistakes. You fail fast, figure it out and correct it. So when I was asked a question specifically about salary, what to do about, what salary was I looking for? I said, well, what salary are you offering for someone with my level of experience at that time? I was still relatively new, a new graduate. And they said, well, we're offering a salary right now of $30,000. And so what I decided to do, and this is how I start to just become aggressive, and this is why I'm sharing this with you all. I could have done a lot more, but at that time, that's just where I was in my career. Like I said, this is well over 20 years ago. This is probably going on 25 years ago now. Actually, more than that. Gosh, I don't even know how long ago it has been. But what happened is that when the owner of the company, New Orleans, said, we're offering $30,000 for this position. I was in North Carolina at that time. So that means I would have to move from North Carolina to New Orleans. And I just felt like that number was not right. And I said, okay, well, let me share something with you, hiring manager, owner. I make that salary right now. So what else do you feel like you would be able to offer me for this position? And I stayed quiet. So another insight I want to share with you all as it relates to salary negotiation, I'm sharing insights with you all today, is that sometimes you need to be, actually, let me change that. Not sometimes, all of the time, you need to be comfortable with silence. Silence can help you to showcase your executive presence and really emphasize a point. So when I asked the hiring manager, I'm making that salary right now. What can you do to basically pay me more money than that? And I stay silent. Let me tell you what happened, friends. Wow, but let me take a sip of my tea because as I mentioned, I'm not feeling well, so I'm so sorry about that. So let me tell you what happened. He stuttered for a moment because he wasn't expecting that. That's where I learned this strategy from that I share with my one-on-one clients, that I'm sharing with you, my audience, because I want you all to do really well with this. He stuttered for a moment. And he said, well, I'm not, let me think about that. He said, what else, what would you want to have? And I said, okay, I ideally would like to have $36,000. So I went $6,000 more than what I was making. Now, let me tell you a secret. This is the secret, friends. I was not making $30,000 at that job. I was actually making $28,000 at that job. However, I learned from my mistake, and I said, you know what? I'm not going to tell this owner exactly what I make in terms of my salary. I'm not going to do that. I am going to tell him what I ideally wanted to make and see where we go from there. So when I mentioned that I ideally would want to make $36,000, he said, okay, we can look into that. So let's schedule some time for you to come down to the location and meet with one of who would be your manager at the time. You all have a conversation and just see if you like the area, if you like the city of New Orleans, and we'll go from there. But I can agree upon $36,000. So I actually gave myself a raise because I asked for more than what I was actually making. Now, in retrospect, if I was speaking to my past self, I would have definitely went a little bit higher. Too, I'll tell you something else to keep in mind as it relates to salaries too. The $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 salary increases that you may be experiencing really are not reflected in your paycheck. They are eaten away by taxes. You will not really see a difference. I've noticed with my clients in a one-on-one setting, you see the most difference in your salary negotiations if you're negotiating up in the realm of $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 increase. This is specifically what I have noticed where you actually see an increase in your salary. When you have those smaller amounts, you don't really see it that much. You may see it a little bit. So for me, from $28,000 to $36,000 at that time, I did actually see a difference. I did see a very small difference in my paycheck, and I was very proud of myself and happy that I negotiated my salary because I made a big mistake the first time in my career, and I promised myself I'd never ever do that again. So I went down to the job, enjoyed it, liked the city of New Orleans at the time, and I moved to New Orleans to work in a forensics DNA laboratory. So that's what happened there. Now, I will say I have more stories as it specifically relates to salary negotiations, but I want to know from you what insight was the most helpful to you in my story. This is how I became very, very aggressive with salary negotiations. And I know many of you, especially those of you who are subscribed to my channel or following me here on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, you know that salary negotiations is something that I'm very, very comfortable talking about. I could talk about salary negotiations all day, literally. I have more stories to share with you as it relates to salary negotiations, but I want to know from you that are watching, do you want to learn about them? If you want to learn more real stories about salary negotiations, then let me know in the comments below. And I will do another video about other salary negotiation stories that I have, salary negotiations that my clients have had after we've worked together to help them earn $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 increases in terms of their salary. So if it sounds like something you want to learn more about, then you absolutely want to let me know in the comments below and subscribe to the channel. I talk about very complex, very, I would say, challenging situations, and I help you learn how to communicate better in those situations. I say this on my channel all the time. People become great by how they communicate. And so my role here, my mission here on this earth is to help unlock the greatness within you. And I do that by helping you and showing you through real world strategies, real world scenarios and techniques, how you can truly communicate at a higher level than your peers. Now, let me know what your all thoughts are about moving forward in terms of other stories. I have some really good ones. I have some really good strategies. I have some really good strategies that I would share with you as it relates to salary negotiations, but I do also want to let you know that my initial reason why I'm negotiating salaries and why I've been so aggressive with it, it all starts with that first story I shared with you. That is a story that was very defining for me in my career. And this is the reason why I am so aggressive with salary negotiation. And to be quite candid with you all, it aches me. When I mean aches, it aches me when I hear another woman in leadership saying that they're worried they're asking for too much. It bothers me it hurts me deeply to hear that when someone says, am I asking for too much? I don't know if I should ask for that. Isn't that too much? There's not many things that bother me, but it truly hurts me when I hear that. And that's the reason why I'm here. I really want you all to negotiate your salaries and know that you are worth it. You, unfortunately, in the world we live in, if you're working for someone, you may not necessarily be paid what you're worth, especially if you're a W-2. That's why people go into entrepreneurship. That's why I'm an entrepreneur now. But you can still negotiate your salary as high as you can within reason. And that is why I'm so passionate about salary negotiation. If you want some support in terms of being able to find that inner voice, maybe you're tired of losing out on money, you're tired of going in salary negotiations and feeling like you do not have the right things to say, or you feel like the hiring manager just has the upper hand on you in negotiation, and this is why I invite you to contact me for a strategy session in the description below. We can talk about where you are and how I can help you get to that next level so you feel more confident, you're showcasing your executive presence when you have these salary negotiations. Because one of the things that I mentioned in my video this morning is that if you are not able to negotiate your salary accordingly, you will literally be capped at your career for a certain amount of time. Most people, when they transition into roles, especially as leaders, they don't start as a leader and leave within the next month. Most of the time, that's probably not going to happen. They probably are not going to leave in 2 months. They're probably not going to leave in 3. They're probably not going to leave in 6. They might leave in a year. They may not. But just keep in mind, if you decide that you accept a salary that is lower than what you really want to be paid, then you're going to be at that salary, leaders, for how long? A couple months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. That time, you could have been making a lot more money somewhere else. And so I want you all to really learn from my mistakes, learn from my over 20 years of experience dealing with salary negotiations myself personally, and of course having salary negotiations with my employees at the time. And just know that you need to negotiate. If you do not negotiate, you're leaving a lot of income on the table. That income can change your life. It can allow you to do different things, different initiatives. Maybe you're trying to start your own business. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're just trying to save for or something else. Maybe you're trying to invest your funds in index funds. Maybe you're trying to do other things. So you want to make sure you're negotiating your salary as much as you can. So I want to know from you, what questions do you all have as it relates to salary negotiation? What are some challenges that you have experienced as it relates to negotiating your salary? Let me know, and I will absolutely give you some insight there. So let me know your thoughts. As I mentioned, I have a lot of great resources for you. For those of you who have just joined, welcome, welcome. I'm glad you're here today. And I have a lot of great resources for you. So as I mentioned at the beginning, for those of you who may have missed what I mentioned, I've been talking about salary negotiations quite a bit. So there's a couple resources for you. The first is a video that's on my YouTube channel that specifically talks about negotiate your salary like a boss. So you definitely want to check it out. It has a green thumbnail. It is in my pre-recorded videos, not in my live video where all the action takes place right now. I have several videos on the live tab that highlight salary negotiation. You'll see a couple of those. I did a salary negotiation video this morning live on my commute where I talked about insights as it relates to salary negotiation for women in leadership. And then I also have a salary negotiation masterclass on my website at exciteexcellence.org where you're welcome to take a look at that. This goes into a lot more techniques and strategies that you can do to really stand out in your salary negotiation. And then of course I have this video here today. So let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know if you want to learn more as it relates to my stories that I can share with you as it relates to salary negotiations, because I have a few more, and some of the ones that will really surprise you, completely surprise you, are probably some of the best stories. So if you want to learn about them, especially as a woman in leadership, maybe you're a man in leadership watching this channel, then you absolutely want to let me know, because I have some really good ones. One that you would be completely amazed that I was being offered a salary at this level in terms of what it was being offered, and you'd be even amazed who offered me this salary also. So it's something you want to know. But I hope you all have an amazing day. Stay tuned for lives tomorrow. I'm doing lives a bit differently on my channel now. I'm doing lives in the morning and on my commute in the morning, Tuesday through Friday. And I still do my lives in the evening, Tuesday through Friday. And I want to know from you all that are members of my audience, how are you liking the lives? Do you enjoy them? Do you want to see something different? I'm just curious. I'm testing something out, and I want to make sure that I'm providing you all with as much value as I can, and in every moment that I have to spend with you all, even if you're not watching live, or maybe you're watching the replay, I want to help you, because I know as I was developing as a professional, there was a lot that I just did not have access to, because my environment as I was aging as a child to an adult didn't encompass necessarily people that were at that higher level. So I want to make sure that you all are learning as much as you can, and I'm here to support you on your journey. So I'm looking forward to talking to you all in the next video, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye for now.